I'm resident of Colorwood for YouTube, Jules Sands. That's my buddy Patrick McCray. That's my buddy Alan Gallant. That's my buddy Gordon Dymowski. We're here to do episode 3 of Claudius, and I want my Eagles.
Yes, Ventilius Varus. Where are my Eagles?
My Eagles. Interesting episode. So they lose 3 regiments, but all but one dude who makes it back, and he's covered in dirt.
It was 120 people who made it back. He was just the one guy who had to deliver the news.
I kept waiting and waiting for them to ask him, then how did you escape? And they finally did, and he had that explanation for it, because it's like one guy shows up and everybody else is supposed to be dead. Wait a minute.
You know what somebody needs to do? Somebody needs to insert the Black Knight from Monty Python, the Holy Grail. Okay.
As the messenger, popping into the room.
Yeah. So, Sean Phillips, her character's added again in this episode. She's gonna set up Julia's son, I believe, because she's gonna have this woman say that he tried to rape her, which is interesting. Even though she does sleep with him the first time.
Yeah, right. Yeah. The gentleman's name is Posthumous.
Yeah, Posthumous.
And that woman, I was wrong. That woman is Patricia Quinn.
Oh, the girl who sleeps with Posthumous?
Yes.
Well, yeah, and then makes the accusation.
Yeah.
The Me Too nightmare. Well, it is.
Yeah, it is. It absolutely.
Because it then inappropriately represents all of the accurate accusers.
Right.
And that is not, statistically, from what I understand, that is not a thing that is inaccurately thrown around.
Right.
So Claudius is a real rarity in that.
Well, I mean, it's obviously it's all Livia's idea, and so there's a backstory behind all of that, and she's got her in a corner. So do this for me, kind of, which is kind of the way she motivates people. So she has her little birds all around the palace and all around Rome. So
I like Augustus in this because his mind is going.
Oh God, is it ever? I mean,
but inconsistently.
No, yeah, he is more childish already than he was even in the first episodes. So yeah. It's interesting to see that, and he does a really good job of that, because the bellowing takes on a different tone. It's a whole different thing, and
there's a desperation.
Yeah, and that whole scene where Posthumous gets accused of rape, and he's putting the questions to him, and Posthumous, as he's telling him, it's Livia, and he realizes as he's saying it, it's not going to go over very well, and so he starts to laugh, and it's like, and of course it's not, because, Augustus is just kind of like looking at him like this, and it's like, but the whole thing is the interactions and the reaction. Yeah, it's fantastic. I mean,
is the payoff in this episode, or is it in the next one? Because I watched them back to back this morning.
It's in the next one, I think.
It's in the next one, yeah.
But there are payoffs within that scene. I mean, there are things happening.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm talking about with his relationship with Posthumous overall.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, the payoff is in the next episode. Gordon, go ahead, man.
I thought Brian Besser was really good in that scene, and I think too, this is the episode where we're starting to see why Claudius is the center of it, because there's all this kind of manipulation around, and everyone kind of thinks they're being clever, especially Livia. And twice, Claudius is told, once by one of the historians, the other by his brother Posthumous, he says, play the fool. Yeah. You're smarter than all this. So I think it's, the first 2 episodes were kind of the, okay, the first episode is this is everything that led up to Claudius's birth. Episode 2 is Claudius as a kid seeing all this starting to happen. And now we're seeing, okay, now that the emperor is starting to fall, we're going to see that this is kind of it's the indirect rise of Claudius, because we know that, okay, there's the scene where Augustus is saying something to the effect of, you know what, I don't like that Tiberius guy. I'm going to make Posthumus my heir, and Livia hears it. And so there's that sense of, okay, if Claudius is going to survive in this really dysfunctional family and this dysfunctional political system, he's got to be the smartest guy in the room, but he's got to be the smartest guy in the room while playing dumb.
Yeah, it's definitely, I mean, it's a survival mood. It's a political move. It's on a variety of levels that you're doing this. I mean, he knows his family. He knows what a bunch of cutthroats they can be. And he also knows that they sort of view him with disdain. And so if they thought he was intelligent and had all these other problems, they'd probably, lop his head off and say, hell with you. We're not going to deal with that. Because people will feel sorry for you, and you're also politically adept.
Yeah.
There's that going. So he couldn't do that. And he takes advice. He takes the good advice. He's a smart observer of behavior, a smart observer of everything that's going on around him, even as a child. I mean, they start to establish that immediately, which is a good thing. And you see him already starting to twitch more in the presence of certain people, and then less in the presence of others, and some of those overt sort of performative behaviors that are where he's exaggerating as he's been told he should do. So I thought the revelation to the historians about how intelligent he was, because his reputation was he was a moron.
And I contend that in that scene with the historians, at the beginning, when he is complimenting both of them, he is being guileless. I think that is that, and it's when they say, no, wait, the one guy takes was like, no, do more of that. That's you're fine. Yeah. That I think little lamp gets lit.
Yeah. And the one historian appreciates it more than the other.
He does.
When he goes into his routine about, well, if I wanted prosaic effect, I want him, and if I want factual embellishment, and I want you, and
you please neither of us.
That's right. And he gets up and walks away, and the other guy laughs. And it's like, and that's a great way to show that there's a sort of an informal alliance there, and then there's immediately a sort of confab between the two of them.
And those guys get reflected at the end of the series in those two advisors that he has, where one of them, they're both seemingly on his side, but one of them sleeping with his wife.
Yeah.
And they really mirror each other on either ends of his journey.
Yeah. And again, his powers of observation. I think he knows well what's happening almost at all times, particularly once things start to coalesce in terms of the family intrigues, which they're starting to do now. They're just starting to do that now.
We talk about, if Dark Shadows had gone into the 70s and so on, Jack Pullman would have made a very good showrunner.
Yes. The camera work in this, and the blocking, and obviously the script treatments.
Yeah.
Just amazing.
Really. Obviously he's getting everything from Graves, but nonetheless, the way he's so selective about the intrigue that he has and the way that he builds it would have been a real shot in the arm.
Yep. And he is also adept at using stage actors. He's using, like in Dark Shadows, they used a ton of stage actors. That's what most of them were primarily, except for Joan Bennett. And she was a stage actress too. She just wasn't primarily that during the peak of her career.
Yeah.
There's a lot of parallels there that could definitely be exploited.
She was in those gangster movies in the 30s.
Was in those noir movies. Yep. He was in a lot of good stuff.
I've only seen John Bennett in one other thing. It was Man in the Iron Mask.
Really?
And she was great. Yeah.
Yeah, good movie. Good movie.
Yeah.
So, Rome is battling Germany in this. What's the battle over?
Okay, it's at this period of time. The Germanic tribes are making their way across Europe. So, the initial slaughter was that Rome is fighting the Germans to hold on to their territory. So it's not a war. It's not like it's a at this point in history, it's more like I'm holding on to what I want to do. Patrick and his group is moving through because they want more land. So the fight's there. So it's not a war. But what Rome did was basically just go, okay, let's get our legions. Let's go conquer people.
Yeah.
And they would do that because they would have a sheer amount of. Part of it was numbers. Part of it was that the Roman legions were very much very organized, very restricted. So, like if you ever see old movies where they put their shields up and some are over their heads and they move forward, that's a Roman thing. Romans also their swords or the gladius most swords were usually like swinging weapons. These were short stabby weapons. So a Roman would get in your grill and just they were brutal.
Yeah. They were halfway between a dagger and a sword, and they were a brutal implement because they could be used in a variety of ways, and including close combat. Which the whole idea is also Germania was a point of conquest for the Romans, but it was also a point of contest because the Germanian tribes were constantly looking for ways to pester, and in this case they ambushed a bunch of legionnaires basically and wiped them out, and this sort of thing would go on in those territories. So,
and this would keep going on and be eventually, I think, besides inflation, the big problem for Rome. And I believe, Gordon, you can correct me on an insurmountable one. I mean, take a long time, but this was it. This is this virus that's just pushing its way forward little by little by little, and it would eventually be very effective.
Yes.
Yeah, that and when Constantine decided to convert to Christianity 300 years later, that also did a lot of damage to the Roman Empire.
Yeah, and everything moved east after that. The Holy Roman Empire moved to the east to Constantinople, and had been in Rome, obviously. But even before that, as you said, the tribes, the various tribes, the Vandals and the Gauls and the Germanians and Visigoths, they all started to encroach as the empire became too overextended, and other things were happening in Rome proper that were causing the upkeep of that huge empire to become more and more problematic. It had to shrink, so it did.
Yep, and Joel, they would have these war cries, and which in the 1970s, Led Zeppelin would turn into the immigrant song. That do 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 do. No, Joel, they didn't. I wanted to see if you were paying attention.
He's paying attention. He's taking notes seriously.
I don't listen to.
We'll just say it's loosely based on a true story.
Nothing but death metal for me, my friend. Anyway,
Visigoths.
Wait! You're knocking Led Zeppelin?
Who are they?
Anyway, if you don't have Led Zeppelin, you don't have no death metal without Led Zeppelin.
One of them wrote the music, I believe, to Death Wish, Jewel. And you love Death Wish?
Jimmy Page did the score. If you're going to be,
wasn't he in Led Zeppelin?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
He did the score for Death Wish 2 because they wanted a sympathizer for Death Wish 2. And Charles Bronson can't do anything without a sympathizer in 2 or 3. They bring the score back for 3. It doesn't quite fit as well for 3 as it did 2.
Yeah, but they got those reverse mohawks on Dan O'Herlihy's son.
Well, 3 was just Charles Bronson goes from killing out of revenge to suburban Rambo. I mean, that's what Death Wish 3 was.
Wasn't this time he was becoming allergic to Death Wish 2? Because wasn't his face starting to like puff out by that time by Death Wish 3?
I don't know. I just know that even I was killed in Death Wish 3. And so were all of you. Anyway.
So we all were.
Wildy's coming.
That's it.
His face puffed out because at Jill Ireland's birthday party as a gag, he stuck his thumb in his mouth and went,
oh, yeah.
And it just stayed that. His mother warned him.
It would say that.
Yeah. Charles, if you do that.
It was filmed in England, but they called it New York. Anyway.
Marina Sirtis.
Oh my God.
Alex Winter.
And Martin Balsam. Put the 3 of them together and you've got entertainment.
We still I think for our usual movie rotation, I'll see if I can find a copy online, streaming online, Electric Boogaloo. It's all about Canon Films.
That's a great movie. That's a great documentary. Jewel, you would really like that.
I will say this, Death Wish 3 does do something historically. It's the first movie to do the buddy cop thing. It's the start of it, really.
Death Wish 3?
In a lot of ways, yeah.
Huh.
Because the guy goes, I got that one dude. He shoots the one mugger.
Well, see, I thought it was Car 54, Where Are You? With Fred Gwynn and Joey Lewis. That's where I would call them.
That's too gritty for this discussion. That's too gritty for this crowd. Hard hitting.
But Joel, in Electric Boogaloo, they talk a lot about Death Wish 3.
Do they?
Yeah, yes, they do. They do quite a bit.
Catherine was in a Golan and Globus produced Charles Bronson starring mid-'80s action movie. She was in Assassination.
Oh. Trying to think of which one that was.
Because she was in England, still back then.
Yeah.
So, guys, with Claudius, with this episode, we have a little love affair going on. We have war going on. Well, battles, if you will. Yes, love affair, war, honey. Battles. Yes.
Sounds like work.
Yeah, sounds like work.
Yeah.
This episode is a lot of fun. One of my favorite scenes, though, or my favorite scene in this, is when they do the games and Claudius just comes out and he's just like, and he sits in the main chair and they're correcting him. It's hilarious.
This all comes to roost later in the series in terms of the way he gets treated.
Yeah.
It really does. And it's delicious to watch. Because he's in the phase where he's going to exaggerate the heck out of this. And he's going to milk this for all it's worth. He falls over in the chair. He gets littered right out of the stadium, because he's too sensitive for the
blood
gladiatorial combat. Yeah, the blood sport. And it's all to the good in terms of him establishing or keeping established the idea that he's this weakling moron kind of persona. So it's fun to watch Derek Jacobi just sort of layer it on and layer it on and lay it on and lay it on. It's really great stuff.
Yeah. Sorry, I was thumbs up and you and Julie at the same time. Sorry.
Two thumbs, two people.
Yeah, but I'm going this. I'm like, you could see me too. So
I'm not smelling either one of them.
So Joe, you're about to break into a rendition of "Hitchin' a Ride" by Vanity Fair.
Sure.
He loves Thackeray.
And the encore is going to be the Tijuana Donkeys.
Yes. So those two.
Donkeys. There you go.
I may even sing "What Would You Do with the Drunken Sailor?" For Bill Malloy's sake.
Oh my God. I really get you drunk?
Remember,
Joel,
Joel,
that one
number
time
one
you sang it,
fan.
you actually sang it wrong because you were singing, "Who's got a crush on a drunken sailor? Who's got a crush on a drunken sailor?"
Joel's got a crush on a drunken sailor. Joel's got a crush on a drunken
Oh my
sailor.
God.
This is
Oh my God.
domestic bliss.
Oh yes.
Not very fun.
Yeah.
Ah,
Go ahead.
and people wonder why I'm still single.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh God. I Claudius, I do have a question for you guys. So Brian Bliss, he's gonna get killed here in a couple episodes. I think two or three. But he's still here. Like you guys talked about, his mind is beginning to slip. So how historically accurate is Claudius at this point with Augustus?
Boy, that's a very complicated question because it's somewhat predicated on how much you want to trust Suetonius.
Yeah.
The big strokes. I mean, who succeeded whom and all of that. That's all.
Yeah. But in terms of how the machinations that made that happen, and who was poisoned and who wasn't, and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
A lot of that is difficult to ascertain. There are competing histories and competing evidence, and it's very difficult to say. I mean, they covered their tracks pretty well when they wanted to. I mean, there's even a scene in this episode talking about, when he tells him not to write this damned history, not to write it. You're gonna put yourself in the crosshairs, basically. If you write this. And then Livia finds it and says, "Oh my God, he's partial to the Republic, and
It's got to go."
Yeah, and keep in mind, Joel, I Claudius is taken from a novel that was based on, that used Suetonius as a source. So Robert Graves, he probably was doing something more. He was probably acting more to do what was good for the fiction rather than historically. So I do know there's some historical. I guess there's some question as to whether he was poisoned by figs or if it was a form of assisted suicide. But I think I think Claudius is not something. Watching Claudius for historical accuracy is like expecting the 1795 arc of Dark Shadows to look at Revolutionary War America. You're not watching it for that. You're watching it for the fiction.
Yeah. The intrigue, the fact that there was intrigue in general in that era of Roman history is true. There was plenty.
Oh God!
But
yeah.
The specifics aren't necessarily the important thing here.
No, one of the best miniseries I saw, the first real Roman miniseries I saw, was about Julius Caesar. I forget what cable network aired it. It might have been TNT. Probably was. But that's when I first saw like a Roman historical on television sort of thing with actors and stuff. Now this, like you guys are saying, it's from a novel, so don't trust like the accuracy is what you're saying. So
specifics, particular certain situations and private conversations and things like that, obviously, would be sort of embellished and made up even. But as the generalities, the successions and certain events that happened that are broader events would be true.
Yeah. It's really interesting. I mean, from an entertainment standpoint, it's fun to watch.
Absolutely. Yeah.
The married woman making eye contact with the married man. It's just like, oh my God! Like,
they were rather obvious and not caring particularly who saw them until, of course, the hammer comes down, and then oops, It's that kind of a thing. But Livia takes advantage of those situations. I mean, that's her modus operandi, really, to get people to do things for her. So she rarely lifts a hand herself to do things. It's all in work of intrigue for her. She's plotting and planning things and organizing things, and then getting other people to do whatever needs to be done. So, and it's very fun to watch, actually.
Did Sean Phillips win an award for her performance, or was she nominated for anything?
Maybe a BAFTA award or something. I don't.
It would be a British or what, an Olivier or something like that. Well, I don't know if they even had the
Olivier was stage.
That's right. She may have won one of those at some point. But
she was the 1977 winner for this. 1977 winner for Best Actress.
Okay.
Oh, that's right.
Cool. That makes sense.
Which award was that?
BAFTA.
Okay.
Cool. I know that I think it was the production designer. Did he win an award too, or I know there was other awards this time won?
Well, the production design is excellent. I mean, it's really, really good. Particularly since it was not done on a massive budget. It wasn't like total spit and polish either, but it was done economically. Let's put it that way.
And at this time, the BBC was kind of in the middle of what they considered to be its golden age,
right,
because they had seen some overseas success with a show called Upstairs, Downstairs, which was the Downton Abbey of its time.
Yes.
They had just
Jean Marsh, I think, produced that as well as starred in it. Is that correct? I think
yes.
She's one of the producers.
The BBC had just exported Python, so that was starting to get play.
Huge. Yeah.
At this point, they were experimenting with syndicating Doctor Who in America, and it wouldn't be until 3 years later where they put the commercial arm of the BBC put the Tom Baker first 3 years of Tom Baker episodes together and sent those out. So they were also color televisions had been adopted widespread in like 72, because what happened was the prices in England, you got a black and white or a color license.
Right.
Color TVs were expensive, so you got the black and white. It wasn't until the early 70s that the color license came down with the black and white, and color TVs were less expensive. So by that point,
yeah. That's right. It wasn't new technology anymore, so the price, like everything else, the price comes down. It was definitely it was international prestige for the BBC in those years because of their connection to American television through PBS and various other things that were going on. The Python movies were coming out and in the 70s, and so all of that stuff lent itself to their good reputation, deserved reputation.
What's you guys' favorite scene in this episode?
I would have to say Posthumous's plea, that, hey, I didn't rape this girl. That whole scene, there's so much going on in that scene. That was just chunky for me as an actor to watch that.
I loved Posthumous's, as he's being his last conversation with Claudius, because the historian, you could argue, okay, the historian notices, but his brother's like, hey, look, basically saying you need to cover your ass here. You will get stabbed in the back. Play dumb.
There's love in that scene too. Right. There's love in that scene.
Yeah. I like all of them. I mean, but both of those are you can't find better.
Yeah. I've already named mine. Is there anything you guys want to add before we go on episode 3?
No, it's solid, and I'm eager to get to episode 4.
Yeah, there's more juicy stuff coming.
Yeah, we'll do episode 4 tomorrow. Is that okay with everybody? We'll do episode 4 tomorrow.
That's fine with me.
Same time?
Yeah, same time.
Cool.
So links to Alan Gallant's YouTube channel, Calling Sport After Dark, link to Patrick Greatest Archives Day book come out. It's going to be a description box. A link to Gordon Dymowski's Amazon page is going to be a description box. Gentlemen, you have a great night.
Take care.
Good night.
Aloha.